Take one look at my channel and you'll find a trend of my fascination with games or just pieces of media as a whole that revolve around the concept of dreams. It's an idea that can be bent and twisted to fit any narrative you'd like, but I've never seen it be implemented any better than in horror games. Perhaps it's how most horror games utilize negative emotions of some kind like guilt, regret, or despair as being the real haunting our protagonist suffers through. And so, dreams allow these metaphors to be conveyed effectively to the audience without it being too on the nose. Or maybe it has something to do with how sequences in dreams allow developers to craft some of the most creative set pieces or events in their entire game. Regardless, with a trope that can be this broad, it's very easy for it to be used as a cop-out, with the infamous retcon dream theories of Bendy and the Ink Machine and Five Nights at Freddy's being a great example. When used as a surprise twist, I and many others find that these endings rob the story of any substance or meaning. To know that the goal you've been working towards for hours was ultimately just to have you wake up on some couch in a decrepit house is very disheartening and pushes people away from experiencing the wonders of such a concept. And so, today, I'd like to talk about a game made by a developer under the alias of Desert Fox that provides an experience so surreal by letting gamers know from the very get-go that they're in a dream. And then, despite that, still writing twists that take you by surprise in a world where you'd originally thought nothing unique could come about. This game is none other than Bad Dream Coma, an indie release that is severely underrated, with its sequels being shrugged under the rug even more so. The series started off with a whole lot of test games that helped ground the developer in what they excelled at. So I hope to be the first to introduce you to this world. Without further ado, let's jump in. It all opens with our protagonist's day oddly coming to a close. As we fall into our deathless slumber, we awake in a world not like our own. The game does an incredible job of quickly familiarizing us with the unfamiliar. Immediately, you're presented with a bountiful number of options before you that allow you to interact with this world and face the consequences of doing so not too soon after. Wanna punch some birds? Well, now you've found yourself some mortal enemies. Who would have thought? You all might have also noticed the game's peculiar art design by this point. It's the developer's signature style and, like many other aspects of Coma, has been carried over and improved from the aforementioned initial games of the Bad Dreams series. The level design has this hand-drawn effect that's used to purposely emphasize how malleable and fragile the state you're in is. Yeah, if you couldn't tell already, this is a dream. The player character knows it is a dream. In fact, everyone knows it is a dream. No one knows why they're here. No one knows why they're all in this coma. Get it? Guys get it? Cause the name is Bad Dream. Anyway. Everyone in this game has been sucked into this hellscape of a home and now must band together to awake on the other side. That's what the gameplay loop of Bad Dream Coma boils down to. It's a point-and-click adventure where you solve puzzles using objects you find and clues from people you meet. Pretty standard, right? Well, yes, until you account for how this game uses dream logic to prod and poke the player into thinking outside of the box in order to get past certain sections. This skeleton wants to be free? Just erase it. It's nighttime and you can't see? Paste a sun over it. It's this type of absurdity that just feels so normal and makes this game a special gem waiting to be uncovered. It still remains grounded, and part of that is due to the art style and plot helping ferment its roots, so it just doesn't feel like a left turn comes out of nowhere next time you find a picture that needs to be cut out and pasted elsewhere. Though this is all fantastic and reason enough for you to give Bad Dream a try if you're into games like it, what really got me excited to make this video was the type of input we can have in this world. Or rather the type of input everyone can have. You see, when stated by the NPCs that they too are trapped alongside us, it's one thing to just leave that detail in for plot's sake and move on like it never mattered. But it's another to show just how true those pieces of dialogue are. What I mean is that if we are to believe that the various people we encounter are real, living, and have a soul, then we need to see the world be lived in by these individuals. And despite the limits of the point point-and-click medium, Desert Fox excelled at delivering a world that proves to us that our actions not only have an appropriate reaction, but that everyone is just off on their own adventure, just the same as us. The consequences of your impulsive decisions don't just change your inevitable path, but those of the characters around you too. We see how the climate worsens or lightens for each person in different ways, and then get to experience their reactions and perspectives on the matter as well. You're not completing the game just for yourself. The story doesn't end with you. You aren't the main character. You're leaving a world behind. There's some endings where you can alleviate the people of their misery and help them escape just the same as you. But while that's all great, the absolute best ending is one where you're the only one to leave. As you do, the people around you bid you farewell and thank you for instilling them with hope once again. In all honesty, it's a bittersweet ending. On one hand, you made it out alive and left a positive impact on where you were. On the other, those that you left behind still have to find their own way out. In a way, that's what makes it the most impactful ending. Throughout the game, you see how everyone is scrambling from point to point trying to solve their own piece of the puzzle so that it can fit into the greater picture. Inhabited camping sites lay abandoned, apartments now full of life. It's all happening around your own story as well, and that will continue to persist even after you're gone. Your decisions mattered, yes, but so do theirs. They are people after all. You may not be here to witness the rest, but it doesn't make it any less important. While that last bit would have been a fitting conclusion, there's a final thing I'd like to discuss that I hadn't been able to fit in earlier. There's one character in particular that I found most interesting from the rest. It's not the masked man or the teddy bear, but rather death. They are the only entity that doesn't seem to be an embodiment of a living soul, but rather they're the groundskeeper of sorts for all that pass through this dimension. What you find out though is how death has become a reclusive mess that wishes to be left alone. Their negligence and inability to act out their duties is what is causing wild creatures and demons to run rampant as the people suffering from these attacks aren't allowed to wake up. Death isn't taking them. I'm no theorist, and believe me when I say that this game has a lot more stories left to be discovered, but from what I could gather, death is a creature that not only helps humans in the real life transition to an afterlife, but also helps those that slip into their subconscious at night by helping them wake up for the next day. Basically, in this universe, death is the reason you wake up every morning. Everyone has their different interpretations of death, so this isn't a widely accepted theory. But it's one that I found that fits best with the narrative, since Death's entire reasoning for not wanting to continue their responsibilities is how they now believe that their presence only causes suffering. Over the events of this game, we piece together the history of it and find out that a particular child tried with all their might to inhibit Death from taking his parents. The child had, by that point in the story, lost his pet dog, grandmother, and grandfather, and he couldn't bear to let the only two people he had left go. He tried and tried all he could. He faced death, begged death, and everything in between. However, death had to perform their duties. And thus, when death had to take the parents away, the internal torture of knowing what death had inflicted upon that child was just too much for it. As with all other aspects, we have a huge hand in affecting the rest of Death's story. There's a variety of sides we attempt to see and understand of this entity, which is why this iteration of Death within media is one I find most full of character and potential. Kind of ironic, isn't it? If you've enjoyed anything that I've said up till now, go play this game for yourself. I tried to make this review as simplistic as possible since I didn't want to spoil any major details. So the world is still left for you to explore. It's on sale right now for less than $1, and I think that's quite a bang for your buck. If you've liked this video in any capacity, please be sure to subscribe and comment down below. I love to hear whatever you guys have to say about any topic I cover. So let me know what you thought about this one. In the meantime though, here are 2 videos that YouTube thinks that you'd like. Give them a shot, you won't regret it. Until next time, this has been Vextus, and see ya.